Okay, so as of recording, a large skill injector from Jita costs 899 million sell, 850 million buy. This stuff is extremely expensive and it can be addictive too. EVE Online isn't like any other MMO. If you want to train a skill, you just have to sit on your hands and wait. Real world minutes, hours, days, even months. It's no wonder that the temptation to inject your way into all the good stuff is real. It's basically space cocaine. Hey everyone, it's Amoni Pananala, and today we're talking about skill injectors, plus 5 tips to get the most out of using them. Skill injectors are a way for people to buy and sell skill points. Skill injectors come in two basic varieties, large and small. There are micro skill injectors, but you can only get them from career agent missions or maybe one or two other circumstances, so it's not really worth diving too deep into those. As I said, there are two types of skill injector. To make a small skill injector, you split up a large skill injector and it becomes 5 small skill injectors. Where do the large skill injectors come from? Large skill injectors are made by taking a skill extractor and using it on a character who has at least 5.5 million skill points. Players can then select the skills they want to extract from, and then, just like that, they've got a large skill injector. So how do they work? Well, it's actually a little complicated. Let's say you're going to use a large skill injector. If your character has less than 5 million skill points already, the large skill injector will give that character 500,000 skill points, which is the full amount. If your character has between 5 and 50 million skill points, you'll receive 400,000 skill points, or 80% of what was put into the skill injector. If your character has 50 to 80 million skill points, you'll get 300,000 skill points, or 60% of what was put in. And if you're above 80 million skill points, you'll get 150,000 skill points, or 30% of what was put in. Small injectors work the same, but with 100,000 skill points at full, and then goes down in value from there by 80, 60, and 30%. So skill injectors are basically a way to skip on training that pesky level 5 skill, right? Right? Well, I'm going to make a few recommendations, and one of them is this. Don't use skill injectors on a character that you already have stuff trained on. The thing about skill injectors is this. You could use them early in your EVE career to get some basic skills training, and maybe train into a ship or two, but one way or another, you're going to be stuck waiting on skills to finish training at some point. Not getting used to waiting a few days or even a couple weeks for a skill to train can set you up for failure when you start training level 5s for things like gun and missile specializations. These are skills that will take upwards of a month or more to train, and if you've been injecting your way so far, you won't have developed the patience for those long trains. And now what can you do? By that point, you're going to have enough skill points that you're only going to get 60, maybe even only 30% from a skill injector. If you're injecting and you're only getting 30 to 60% of the total value of the injector, you're just throwing your ISK away at that point. It's a waste of your ISK and your effort. I know it can be hard when people are going off to do things that look fun and you don't have skills to fly the ship that's required. It's those moments when it may seem really tempting to buy a couple skill injectors and try to cheese your way into being able to fly a certain ship. There are so many things that can go wrong with this idea, but just to name a few. You could spend all that money and realize you still don't have enough skill points. You might be able to sit in the ship, but then not have any fun because you don't have the support skills trained to actually be able to get the right effect from that ship. But before you think I'm anti-injecting, let me reassure you that I am a true blue goo lover. Skill injectors are incredibly useful, but you have to be smart about how you use them. Me, when I first started in EVE Online, I was not smart about how I used them. I wasted a lot of ISK on skill injectors that I really didn't need to. On the other hand, I have also used skill injectors effectively and intentionally to train ults into specific roles, such as the Sino ult or a Crab ult. So the question becomes, how do you use skill injectors effectively and intentionally so that you're getting the most out of all of it? Here are 5 tips for getting the most out of your skill injectors. Tip 1. Only inject on fresh ults or ults that have less than 5 million skill points. This one's pretty self-explanatory as to why. There may be occasions where you have to inject on an ult that already has 5 million plus skill points, but avoid doing this as much as possible. Tip 2. Skill plan everything you're going to inject using a tool like EveMon before injecting. The nice thing about skill planning out what you're going to inject is that you can see all the skills and double check that you're training all the right ones. If you're injecting into a specific ship with a specific fit, be sure to factor in the support skills, fitting skills, shooting skills, shield skills, navigation skills, and so much more. I recommend that you use a skill planning tool like EveMon because it will tell you how many skill injectors you need and how much that will cost you. Tip 3. It is more efficient to train with cerebral accelerators than it is to inject, especially on characters that already have 5 million plus skill points. Get yourself trained in Biology 5 and get the Biology implant for an additional 10% increase in the length of your boosters, and then start chugging cerebral accelerators. Tip number 4. If you need skill points immediately and you already have 50 million plus skill points, don't use skill injectors. Instead, I recommend you buy a skill pack from the NES or EVE Online stores. These packs range from a modest 250,000 skill points to a whopping 1,750,000 skill points. These packs also include cerebral accelerators. One word of caution, you can only buy each pack once per account, and it will probably be 6 months to a year before they release new packs. That said, you can buy each pack once on the EVE Online store for real-world cash and once through the NES using Plex, which means you're effectively able to buy each pack twice. Tip number 5. Wait to buy all the skill injectors you need to inject all at once, rather than injecting a few here and then a few more later. It may not be obvious at first, but if you need 25 skill injectors and you only have 10, you could inject those 10 now and then get the 15 more later, but chances are that you're going to be about 1.5 million skill points short once you do. Why? Because if you inject those 10 skill injectors, you'll now be at 5 million skill points, which means that the last 15 you need, according to your carefully thought out skill plan, are now only worth 400,000 SP each, or 6 million SP total, when what you needed was 7.5 million skill points. Skill injectors are expensive, so if you're planning to inject into high SP ships like a Marauder, Flops, or even a Capital, you need to be patient and wait until you have all the skill injectors to inject all of it all at once. That's pretty much all I have for you for this week, and I'm sure some of you are wondering, wait, what about daily alpha skill injectors? Well, those are only usable by alphas, and you can only use one per day. They don't work like any other injector in the game. They're basically intended to allow alpha players to train up from the 5.5 million skill point training cap up to the 20 million skill point cap that they have. Basically all the skills that are available to alphas. There's not much to them beyond that. If you like this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and share the video with friends who may be curious about skill injectors. Fly dangerously, folks.